must get to our next guest. This guy has played 331 NRL games for the Storm, the Tigers, the Broncos and the Warriors. But he was a part of this, folks. We've got the Manly Seagulls preparing for the Melbourne Storm. If we go back to round 25, the year is 2011, and this is what happened.
Where's Adam? Adam Blair? Adam?
I hope Blair and Stewart stay on.
I was on the field, mate. Oh, no, I was on the field. Okay, I was just on the field. Okay. You'd come running a distance to throw punches. You run here as well. So you go for 10. Why you go, Glenn? Why you go, Glenn? Yep. Why you go, Glenn?
Well, Blair might as well start walking because he's not going to stay there. They send him off set.
You think he might as well get on his bike?
He might as well get down. Yeah, see him.
There you go. Well, they start peddling Adam. So it was Adam Blair and Glenn Stewart in an embrace of the century. And they're still... Hang on. We better stay... Oh, it's on again! It's on again! Glenn Stewart and Adam Blair. Here come the reinforcements. Now they've come from the bench as well.
Well, we knew there was rivalry.
Okay, that man who saw said reinforcements charging towards him on the western side of Brookvale Oval, that man is Adam Blair, a grand final try scorer, a premiership winner, a 300 gamer, just an absolute star, an international player. Adam Blair, welcome back to the Run Home with Joel and Scopey. How are you, mate?
Good afternoon, lads. What about that? I'm smiling while I'm listening to that thing. A long time ago. It brings back crazy memories of those moments, and having a little smile while I was listening to the commentary there.
Blairy, what are your actual vivid memories? So when you hear that commentary, which you're clearly on the other side of that, which is you're the main character, when you hear that audio, what sort of memories does it inspire for you?
Well, I was hoping, to be honest, that because I ran 8-man into a little bit of a circle, I thought maybe I'm not going to get seen here. They're not going to see the uppercut. I'm not going to get sent off for 10 minutes. So I thought I was going to get away with it, to be honest. Man, what a crazy event that was. A long time ago now, 2011, and the rivalry was huge. Again, we played our grand final against them, and we beat them in, I think it was 07,
yep.
And then they gave us a hide in 08. So the rivalry built up from them. But to be honest, lads, I wasn't actually, when we were in Melbourne, because we don't watch much rugby league, but you do a lot of analyst work on the opposition, so you understood what you did. I didn't feel like we had a rivalry within, but from the moment I took one of my first carries, I could feel the niggle in the tackle, so I was like, oh, geez, we're on tonight, and that's what it escalated into.
Wow.
Blairy, when you're running over, and we see it so much, and I'm sure you must get asked so many questions about it. When you were trotting over to Gifty, Glenn Stewart, did you anticipate, were you just going over just to have another little cheeky word, or did you think, was it going to be on? Like, was that in your intention to get it going again, or were you just going to go give him a bit of cheek and then see what happened from there? Did you?
And what I think, Scope, I think my whole mentality, and when we were down in Melbourne, was we were taught to move to things quickly, and it was jog to everything. So my first and foremost thought was just jog to get off.
Yep.
Jog to get off as quick as I can, so about 10 minutes can start. But on that little bit of a journey, I felt something from afar. And as I got closer, I could hear some words that I won't repeat. So I asked the question in a obviously not in a polite way of what he was saying, and then from there it kind of a jersey grab, and that's when you knew it was on. So my intentions weren't to go and throw some punches, but I felt something on that way to the sideline that this was going to be a moment that there's going to be no questions asked. You're just going to have to go after it.
How many weeks did you get, Blairy, for it?
To be honest, I didn't get that many weeks. I got 3 weeks for running into the fight more than anything. Yep. I got 2 weeks for bringing the game into disrepute. So 5 weeks total. When I went into judiciary, they were headhunting me for 10 weeks for that.
Oh,
it would go for 10 now, for sure, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The word on the street when I was in there, that they were saying, hey, they're trying to get you for 10 weeks here. So I got it down to 5.
Well, what do you reckon it would go for now, Shug? 10 minimum?
Yeah, probably. Hey, Blairy, I want to ask you this because it's such an iconic moment. And, you cop the weeks you cop. Glenn Stewart, I think, got 4 or 5 weeks himself. He returns for the grand final, wins the Clive Churchill. If I did, I reckon if I showed that clip of you two walking off and I said, listen, okay, I've got 3 questions for you to ask, $10,000 if you get it right. First question, who are these 2 people, the combatants in this fight? I reckon most people would say, well, that's Adam Blair and that's Glenn Stewart and this is Brett Stewart running over. I'd say, yes, correct. Move to second base. The next question I'd ask was...
Who started it?
What started it? Like, what was the actual initial thing that started you guys all running in? And the third thing I would ask was, who won the game? I don't think anyone would have a clue who won that game. Do you reckon, Scope?
Yeah. So Ryan Hinchcliffe starts it. Obviously, I come in and I throw in, and then on the way out, we obviously have that bit, and then Manly win the game.
So Ryan Hinchcliffe starts it with Glenn Stewart?
No, Darcy Lussick.
No, he starts it with Darcy Lussick. A little bit of a technique, a bit of a sit-out, A little bit of a sit-out, elbows him in the face, and it was on from there. A little cheeky uppercut, and then we all on.
And then those two just wiped their hands and off they went.
No. It cost
Correct.
Darcy Lussick the grand final. So he got the same suspension, similar suspension to Glenn Stewart.
Did he?
He ends up becoming a mate of mine life after footy because we did the swap. So when I went to Manly, he went to Parramatta, and we had all the mutual friends. Glenn goes obviously straight back in. Clive Churchill goes down in folklore, Manly folklore, gets the job done. Darcy, because he missed that time and he hadn't cemented his spot in first grade at that point, someone gets the jump on him in the grand final. I think it might have been Vic Morrow.
Yep.
Remember the name Vic Morrow?
I do.
I think Vic Morrow gets the grand final. Darcy misses out. So he had assurances from Desi all the way. He just tells a funny story about it. Desi had told him, you're in. And then it got to grand final week. Gifty straight back in. Darce was like 18th man or 19th man. He missed out on the grand final because of
yuck.
so the melee.
So for yourself, Blairy, so 2007 you win against Manly. You had lost to the Broncos in 2006. When I say you, I'm saying the team. And then 2008, they spank you 40-0. 2009, you answer back. You play them in a qualifier to make the grand final before you meet Parramatta and win that game. Billy Slater scores 4 tries. So there is so much history between these two teams. It's quite remarkable. We had the Gallen fight versus Sonny Bill Williams, and they're talking about, having a coffee one day. Was there ever a said coffee between yourself and Glenn Stewart?
You know what? And I actually don't know Glenn Stewart as a person, I don't know him as a person. Always played against him, always said hello on the field. But like everything, what happens on the field stays on the field. That's how I left it. I moved on. I wind the clock back and think, man, I would have loved to finish off my time down in Melbourne a little bit better than what it was, play a grand final maybe. But it wasn't to be. But again, I like no ill feelings towards anyone. I thought, what happens on the field stays on the field. And I haven't actually spoken to him ever since, to be honest.
Wow. Okay. So 2011... sparked my memory. So, was that your last ever game for the Storm, Blairy?
My last ever game for the Storm.
Wow.
So that's why I was much really more dirty than anything, because after all my journey, leaving home as a 15-year-old, Melbourne giving my opportunities, growing up there, playing through all their feeder clubs, then playing my NRL game, 121 games I think I played at the Melbourne Storm, and I went out like that. So it was disappointing because I think that was the year that the 1v8, how the table used to work, and the Warriors got us.
Yes,
and I think after that, like the fighting, that got changed, and I think the table got changed of how it goes 1v4 now. So I think after that, the 1v8 Warriors cleaned us up. So we needed to win, have a bye, play a game. It had to work out pretty, the long way for me to get back into that team to play grand final, but it just wasn't to be.
So Blairy, so Storm were the minor premiers that year, is that right?
Correct.
Wow.
1v8.
Oh. So I remember I was down at that game. Michael Witt was mucking around with it at the end. Took an age to put it down. They score and win the game, 1 versus 8.
That's right.
Can I ask you this? So had the Storm qualified, would you have done a Glenn Stewart? Would you have been eligible for the grand final, or did you know your season was done?
I think that. So I think they had to lose to the Warriors
to get an extra game,
and then play all the way through.
Yes.
For me to be able to play.
Gotcha.
So that's how it had to work, but it didn't fall that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, when the Warriors beat you...
I was disappointed.
When the Warriors beat them, I mean, whilst you're cheering for your team, naturally, but you are human, When the Warriors beat you
Yeah.
in round one, you would have been thinking, oh, hang on a minute.
I'm a chance.
You better keep
Yeah.
training, Blairy
Yeah,
boy.
yeah. Definitely.
What about-
Definitely.
There's only one player that's remaining from that game, Blairy, Daly Cherry Evans. He will be
Yeah.
going down to Melbourne against Melbourne, and they've obviously been so much news around, Cameron Munster and what he's had to deal with in the last, week and a half. It's going to be a really good game. How do you see the game? Melbourne look like they're back to the Melbourne of old in the last couple of weeks, and Manly have been able to jag a couple of wins and get some confidence back as well.
Yeah, watched the Storm last week up here in the Hunter, against the Knights, and I thought the Knights started really well for about 36 minutes of the game. I didn't think the Melbourne Storm were at their best, but in true Melbourne fashion, they hung tough. They got a try just before half time and pretty much just grinded out the Newcastle Knights. They you give them a sniff. And you give them anything, they'll take the game, take the ball by the scruff of the horns, and that's what they pretty much did. I think they're going to be a hard team to beat this year. I see them coming close to playing in the grand final, and I don't think the Seagulls will go down there and get a job done. They seem to, no matter who goes in there, and this has been, I guess, a tradition of the Storm. It doesn't matter who they put into the positions, they just get a job done. I think they had Joe Chan up against Bradman Best last week, and I thought he did an awesome job against one of the better setters in the competition. So out of position, people playing in wherever they need to be for the Storm, they just get jobs done.
Yeah,
Be too strong.
You called that game, didn't you, Blair, with Jimmy and Timmy?
I sure did.
For SEN. You would have had a bit to do with Jerome Hughes over the last couple of years. Would have probably coached him for the New Zealand Māori at least once.
What a freak.
He looks like, I think he was banged up at the start of the season. He missed the Pacific Championships last year because of a shoulder injury. I feel like he has got his health back to almost 100% in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and his combination with Ali Katoa in particular is just thriving at the moment.
He becomes a target, Ali Katoa, for the Melbourne Storm and Jerome Hughes. And Jerome Hughes is an elite man. Things that he does on the field, he sets things up, but he knows what's coming next. And some of the plays that he did last week, whether he ran and put Liero through underneath the post, where he played short and knew that the Newcastle Knights were going to jam and just threw one over the top. He always seems to know what's happening or what he needs to do to put him in the best position. But yeah, like you said, I thought he started slow, but seems to be finding his feet now, and obviously the health has been good, and he's out there carving up like he has been, like he's never left the place.
Tell you what, I know you're a big rap on Canberra too, Blair. I just think this Melbourne Storm side, they are in the box seat, and with the advantage of Trent Liero, what he did in the Origin, Stefano played some of his best football in Origin, Munster, Grant, Coates, the list goes on. They're going to be hard to beat, very, very hard to beat, considering, too, if they win that first week, they're back in home for a prelim.
Oh, that'd be huge.
It is huge. It really is. Just before you go, a quick comment, Blairy, on it's all kind of blowing up in the world, the R360, the rugby sort of concept.
Yeah.
Do you across that at all? And what do you see it as a serious threat at all?
Well, I think they'll definitely be targeting a few league players, guys that have played the game before, I think. Someone like, I guess, Joey Manu, who's doing it right now in Europe, is measurably someone that players can look towards. I know Joey's obviously an extreme athlete, and a lot of these people, obviously, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's been mentioned as well. I'm glad that our mate Kalen Ponga has said that he wants to hang around for another couple of years, because he would obviously have been a target for these. So I definitely think when you got the Saudis and the money that they're throwing around, and it doesn't take much for someone to jump on that, and then everyone else may follow. So, yeah, I definitely think it's a threat.
Blair, I shared this yesterday, and we must break, but you'll appreciate this. So Matty White does this, what are the headlines going to read over the weekend? And one clever listener texted in, not Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Roger to a Saudi check. So I thought that was very clever. Hey, Adam Blair, mate, you're a wonderful person to catch up with. You do great work with SEN too, when we can catch you for the SEN commentary. You're in the pathways there at Newcastle. And, mate, we'll think of you most certainly when it comes to the Melbourne Storm taking on the Manly Seagulls. Thanks again for joining the run home.
Awesome, lads. Thank you very much. Have an awesome afternoon, man.
Let's get under the scope. Raiders take on the Eels, GIO Stadium, Saturday, 3 p.m. The Raiders, this game, by the way, will be called by Jimmy Smith, Noddy and Timmy Manor, live from 2 p.m. on SEN. And as you know, you do not need to leave the SEN network because we have so much rugby league. Is there a station on the planet that talks more rugby league? The answer is no, in case you're trying to check that up. Now, the Raiders, Scopey, are on a big run. I think they've won 7 in a row. And they had the bye. They played 3 games and then the other bye. I think, as far as Ricky Stewart's concerned, those 3 wins wedged between the 2 byes were kind of less than impressive. And I fear for Parramatta here because this game's in the middle of winter. It's down the nation's capital. They've had another bye. Hasn't been impressive. Yes, they're winning. You get Papali'i back. You get Hudson Young back. And I kind of feel like Scope, it's explode o'clock for the Green Machine.
Well, I'll tell you why I think it's going to explode, unfortunately, for the Parramatta Eels. It's also Old Boys Day down there for the Canberra Raiders. You know what Sticky's going to be like. You know how hard he's going to want them to play for the Old Boys. Like, no one appreciates club history more than Sticky. So, unfortunately for the Eels, under the scope for me in this game too is a weird one. It's a random one. It's the 18th man, Dylan Brown. That's been all the news around Parramatta. I actually like the decision. I like Dylan Brown. I think, I've been one of those in the media or on podcasts that have come out and said I think there's a way in which it works next year at the Newcastle Knights. But in saying that, he made a decision to head up to the Hunter, and Riles has to start. They're not going to make the 8, the Parramatta Eels. So he's got to try to figure out and get an early start on what his squad looks like next year. So it's Dean Hawkins, it's Joash Papali. They figure out who's going to partner, at least in the short term, Mitch Moses moving forward. And, can either of them become a long-term answer as well?
People may say, look, this is meaningless, that you're, playing with 10 rounds to go, but it's kind of not. Like, if you start next year, and as opposed to being your 3rd game starting at 5'8" versus your 12th game, for example, it's a big difference.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, huge. And I hope it doesn't mean that Dylan Brown's just not in contention moving. I would actually prefer Dylan Brown actually being on the bench as cover. He's such a good player. You can tell that the decision has weighed on him. He keeps a pretty brave face, and he's a pretty relaxed customer, Dylan Brown. But you think for sure he can add some value on the bench. But I'm all aboard Jason Riles trying to figure out if Joash Papali is the answer at 6.
Love it. Lockie Galvin's a big talking point. They've ripped the Band-Aid off, so he's going to start at halfback for the first time in his career. To be fair, when he plays alongside Jerome Luai at the Tigers, they're kind of playing 6.5 each anyway. That's kind of the same scenario with Burton, so it's the same role. I'm not perplexed or bothered by the fact that it's his first game at halfback. Sexton's in reserves. Look, you know what? And I heard Webby and the team at Morning Glory. It is professional sport, and unfortunately, it's not going the way right now of Sexton. It's not to say he won't be there grand final day if they were to make it, but I'm in the camp. People are saying, okay, well, Canterbury, they've been up the top of the ladder, but if you go through their draw, it has kind of been soft, right? And I think Cameron Ciraldo would recognise that. They had the big win against the Raiders after trailing at half-time, but aside from that, really, they haven't beaten a lot, so they do have to go up a few pegs, and the few pegs might be the man Galvin.
For sure, this was inevitable. Like when they made the writing was on the wall for Toby Sexton when all the chat was around not only pursuing Lachlan Galvin, but there's also chat around Ches at some point. They obviously thought internally maybe he wasn't the guy that could get him over that hump or get him all the way to a grand final win. And I was always of the opinion they had to make the call on either 3 options. There's 3 options, and this is the order in which I would have done them. Lachlan Galvin at halfback, Toby Sexton out of the team. That's what they've done now.
Yep.
If you were going to stick with Toby Sexton, then completely remove Lachlan Galvin out of the team like they did last week.
Yep. Option number 2.
Option 3 was the worst one, which I'll try for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Toby Sexton or Lachlan Galvin in the half position with the other one located on the bench.
Yep.
Like it doesn't work for halves.
No.
And plus they had such a light pack as it was. So the blowtorch is going to be on. The pressure's going to be on. I'm on the Bulldogs. I'm tipping the Bulldogs in this game. But if it gets down to the last 10 minutes, and in particular, Lockie Galvin and Matt Burton don't come up with a winning play, geez, Manly next week,
yeah.
a much improved Manly team.
They won't change it straight away. It's very hard to put the genie back in the bottle. One thing I would say to Toby Sexton with having knowledge, not of success like he's having at the Bulldogs, but I've seen too much rugby league to think, okay, mate, there's two ways you can go about this, right? I can understand your pain. You can get better or you can get better. If he just trains his backside off and says to himself, I don't know how this is going to happen, but somehow, if the boys make it, I'll be playing their grand final day. In a brutal game of rugby league, there is every chance that somehow he's wearing a jumper on grand final day. So that's the only way he can think, I think, at this time.
For sure, and he's handled it really well,
Yep.
considering. What else is Toby Sexton, could have done during this period? But go out there and play his best possible footy. He's been rewarded. He got a contract overseas to go to the Catalan Dragons. You're right, Sugar. You do the right things, you tick all the boxes. The footy gods will reward you.
Yeah.
Whether he jags he could be get the uppy carousel.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember Isaac Luke? It was an injury. It was suspension.
Mate, Luke Keary was the same. It
Yep.
took a Sutton injury during the year for him to get a run.
That's right. He goes to 6.
There's too many of those stories to give up on it. Look, you could be starting halfback at a team who's no chance of making the grand final. You are right there. So, Toby Sexton, mate, just keep playing away. You never know what can happen. Melbourne Storm take on the Seagulls. If you missed the chat with Adam Blair and ourselves, it will be on YouTube. It'll also be on the podcast. It's a beauty. 2nd versus 7th. I said this last week. I did preface it by saying I do think the Melbourne Storm are clear-cut favourites to win this comp. I just feel in this period, they've been to Townsville, they've been to Newcastle, Origin disruption, no Ryan Pappenhausen, Manly fresh off the bye. If there was to be an upset, I could see this happening, but in saying that, they are a tough, great side, the Melbourne Storm.
Brooksy, you got an alert for me?
Oh! Hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Are we on the same page?
Upset alert.
Yep.
Upset alert. Doot. That's my little added one too
Yeah.
on top of it.
Yep.
I think this is the sort of performance Manly are looking for. They got those 2 wins that they needed to. They were little softeners. The
Yeah.
West Tigers missing a whole heap of troops. The Rabbitohs missing a whole heap of troops. You get a little bit of confidence up. They get a few wins on the board. Turbo gets 2 games to work himself into that centre position and also have some joy in that sweeper role that we've seen that worked well for him at Origin period. I'll give him a chance.
Mate, I
I
do
like
too.
the 10.5.
And the fact of being to Townsville, back home, then up to Newcastle, injuries, Origin, disruption, it is. I like what you do.
Like that.
Anyway.